Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speak Up Sis Talk Show. This is the place where Christian authors have an opportunity to share their stories, their testimonies through their written work in order to inspire you to open up and share yours. I'm your host, Angel Charmaine, and tonight I've got another amazing independent self-published author here on the show to talk to you about who she is and the types of works that she writes. And we're going to chop it up about some good stuff tonight. We just had a little bit of a conversation prior to coming on screen. And so I think tonight is going to be a really, really good conversation. So sit tight. I'm going to bring her on. Hello, how are you doing, Miss Pamela Nichols?
Hello, Miss Angel. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming into the space to talk with me tonight about you as well as your work.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
That's what's up. So you've been rocking with Speak Up Sis for a minute. And you're actually one of the Speak Up Sis bookshelf authors. So thank you for believing in the platform and trusting it enough to put your baby on the platform. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the work and the help you give us.
So let's go ahead and get into it because we got some good stuff tonight. If you will, please tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Okay, I'm Pamela Nichols. I live in Portsmouth, Virginia. I write Christian fiction that has a lesson in it. I guess you can call it a parable. I homeschooled my children. I was a stay-at-home homeschooling mom for a while, and that's how I initially got into writing because I freelanced for our local newspaper for more than 10 years.
That's cool.
I wrote articles from my home, community news articles, and they got posted in the newspaper. My children are grown now. The youngest is a sophomore in college. So my priorities have shifted, and I'm totally now in the me season of my life.
I like that season.
I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying it. And so I'm writing now, and I'm enjoying it.
That is so cool. So I haven't quite gotten to the me season. My youngest is going to his junior year next year, 11th grader. So I still got 2 years.
You can ease yourself into it.
Yes, I'm not rushing because I've been a mom of 4 for 16 years, but my oldest son is 21, so I've been a mom for 21 years. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself when they're gone, so I'm not rushing it. We're gonna see. So we've got some guests in the building tonight. You all excuse me, I'll probably take my specs on and off because of the glare. Story time with Salita. Hey girl, hey, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us on YouTube. I appreciate you. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you have not already, please click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell, and that'll let you know when we go live and we have new authors and lots of good stuff on the channel. How you doing, Dana Jackson? It's good to see you as well in the space. Thank you for joining us on YouTube as well. Dana says, I am in that season. Girl, enjoy it.
It's a wonderful season.
Enjoy it. So if you are watching via Facebook on the bookshelf, Speak Up Sis bookshelf, or on Speak Up Sis YouTube, feel free to comment, ask questions. We do interact and engage with you all on Speak Up Sis Talk Show. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into talking about you as an author first. What made you decide that you actually wanted to write fiction books? Because many people now are doing autobiographies. We've got lots of memoirs, right? Anthologies. But you decided fiction. Why fiction?
Well, let me tell you what happened. I had a friend of mine. We were hanging out one day and we went to lunch. This was the first time we'd ever gone to lunch. And I noticed she didn't eat a lot. So I thought maybe she wasn't feeling well. And she confided in me later that she was recovering from an eating disorder.
Mm.
I'm embarrassed to say it. The very first thing that popped in my mind was, Black people don't get eating disorders. That is the first thing that I thought. And almost immediately, the next thought was, this needs to be a book. And so that's where the idea from a book. Now, it still took me about 6 or 7 months to actually write it because I homeschooling and
Right.
all that. I had a lot going on. But when I wrote it and it came together, I let her read the first part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh my God, this is exactly how it is. How did you know? I had done some research, but the main thrust of the book is, like my friend, the character in the book is a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times as Christians, and particularly in the African American community, there are things that we just do not deal with. We think they don't happen to us. They happen to y'all.
Right.
And that's actually a line from the book. Or sometimes when things are staring us right in the face, we sweep them under the rug.
Right.
Sad to say, a lot of times we major on the minors. And that is the thrust of this book. And I know the devil made me do it is a big thing. But sometimes Satan ain't got to work that hard. He's just using what we don't know and what we won't do against us.
Right, because the Bible tells us, right, that the people are perishing from a lack of knowledge. So
that's it.
All he has to do is ensure that you remain ignorant.
That's it.
And you'll destroy yourself.
That's it. You will destroy yourself. And this girl, she has help. I'm going to give away one little side plot of the story. The girl that comes to help her is of another race, but she recognizes the signs and she wants to help her. She will not accept her help simply for that fact.
Okay, so because we're getting that, you know what? I'm gonna tell you, y'all authors be ready. I have to pull y'all back. Like, hold up. So I'm gonna go ahead and let the people know what the name of your book is, and we'll talk more about some of the other works that you have. But the book that is on the bookshelf, everybody, it's entitled Necessary Food. And it is a fiction book. However, as you can hear, it's kind of based loosely on a real situation that Pamela experienced with a friend. So one thing we talked about prior to coming on screen is that you tend to tackle in your writing topics that are difficult for Christians to deal with, especially Christians in the Black community. So after Necessary Food, what made you decide I'm gonna deal with some other big stuff in the other books?
This is what happened. Necessary Food was initially going to just be a standalone book. One of the characters in there, because when I write, I write up a complete character study on the folks who are in my story. And writers will tell you, fiction writers will tell you, sometimes the story just gets away from you. The story wants to be told. And she just kept coming up. And this other stuff kept coming up, and it seemed like it was taking me elsewhere. So I said, okay, you know what? That needs to be a book too. Okay. That's how, because I did not set out to write a series. Gotcha. So when I finished Necessary Food, the issue that this particular character had goes into book 2. And then that right. And then we're on book 5. 5 is going to be it. So it ends at book 5.
So how did people receive Necessary Food? And is your primary audience, the people who have been reading Necessary Food, are they primarily Black people? Or are you finding people of other races reading this particular book more?
That's an excellent question. I never thought about that. But it's not just Black readers. I have a beta team. Okay. And I think only one of those for Necessary Food was Black. Really? One thing I have noticed, and I say it like I'm not writing the books, like it's a surprise to me, is that I have different races in all of my book. The main character in Necessary Food is Black, The
Uh-huh.
main character in the second story is Hispanic. A white male is the main character in the third book.
Really?
And all I can say that I think is happening is that the story is leading, not the characters, if that makes sense.
Got
The
it.
topic and the
Yes.
theme is leading. I've read some of my reviews and they're enjoying it. They're enjoying
Okay.
it. Hmm.
Okay. That's that sounds like because the people will let you know if they don't like it.
Yes, they will.
I mean, that's one thing about reviews, and this is kind of a sidebar, and we
Mhm.
tend to do that here. For those of you who may be brand spanking new to watching Speak Up Sis Talk Show, this is an unscripted place. We just have conversations. I just happen to have them with amazing authors, and you get to meet them, you get to meet their work, but we deal with topics and all sorts of different things. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay.
We are live.
Here's the thing: who doesn't know that
Where
Angel
you are right
Armin
now.
is live on Wednesday night at 8 p.m.? Like, you can't love me. You can't possibly love me if you're blowing up my phone right now. You can't possibly love me. But that's okay. So here's the sidebar, because you brought up reviews and people reading your work, and you're
Mhm.
thinking, okay, um, they must be feeling this. Have you gotten any reviews where someone didn't like it, or they said something that maybe wasn't glowing? How do you deal with that as an author?
I'm just gonna say this: the lowest review that I've gotten is a 4-star.
Okay.
Now, if I got less than that, or if I got one that wasn't stellar, I
Right.
would have to do one or two things. I would have to possibly both of them. Just know that this story was given to me, and I
Got
wrote it the
you.
best that I could. And if any mistake or any error in there, that was me, not the message, not God. And
Got
I,
you.
I so I got that. Um, and just try to keep your ego out of it. I
Right.
mean, if you're reading it, because sometimes I've read other negative reviews and they're complaining or focusing on something that is just not even germane to the book.
Right.
You know, they don't like the way something was said, or I think she went on too long in this. And at that point, that's just like that's a life lesson. You just have to take
Right.
that with a grain of salt.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I asked that because as believers, and I'm glad that you gave that first part. Many of us will say that the Lord gave us this story, or He led us to write this, or something of that nature. And
Mm-hmm.
so when people, especially because you're writing about topics people don't want to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
you're writing about stuff folks are like, look, that's that, just give it to the Lord, leave it on the altar, and we'll need to write
Mm-hmm.
no books about this stuff.
Right.
So and I'm just always wondering how authors deal with the criticism, because I think a lot of times the criticism is not so much about the work itself, it's about what you're writing about.
Yes. Exactly.
And it's like,
Or a trigger.
why do you,
Somebody might have gotten triggered. Right.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
which, what can we say about that? So let's look at the other books, because this particular one, you talk about eating disorders. They kind of meet, the three women sort of meet into
Right.
this place that revolves
Mm-hmm.
around that.
Right.
What are some of the other topics that you deal with in the other books?
Okay. So the Hispanic character in Necessary Food has depression. So,
Okay.
and her story just kept jumping out at me. She just kept getting larger and larger. And it was pulling me away from what we were talking about. So I decided to put that in a second book. And so that's called More Grace. And that deals with the Christian response to depression and suicide.
Mm,
Because don't make me say it.
say it.
We've got to get this right. We have got to God is God. Personally, to me, to say that suicide automatically throws someone out of the hand of God means that is more powerful than Christ's atoning blood. And I do not believe that. I just do not believe that. So that's what goes on there. We keep, I don't know whether it was last summer or summer before, it seemed like over and over again, we had these famous people, Hollywood stars committing suicide. So we had this thing all over the internet and people were arguing about it. Social media, whether they go up or go down or what happens to their soul afterwards.
Right.
And my point is, can we just lead with love? Can we lead with love? That does not sound very.
Let me say, that is a very tough topic to tackle, and I'm just going to I'm going to what's the word I'm looking for?
We're gonna plead the fifth on that one.
I'm saying I appreciate that you have chosen to tackle such a difficult topic, because most people are not trying to deal with that. And I'm going to say most people who are Christian, most people who are believers, because either way you sit in that type of, so eating disorders is one thing. Eating disorders, it's like Black people don't have no eating disorders. Okay.
Exactly.
That's white people thing. That's not our thing. Go eat your food and stop playing. Okay. Right. That's one of those, we just don't want to acknowledge this thing. Right. Exactly. That's not heaven or hell for us. That's like, we just don't want to acknowledge it. We're ignorant about the topic. So we just don't do that. But when you talk about suicide, that's different. And that requires you to sit in a place where you're willing to receive whatever the fallout is going to be for that. Either side you take, if you sit in your position, right, you're going to have people who are going to come against that position like strongly. But if you take the other position, you're going to have people who are going to come against that position as well. So I take my hat off to you. That's what I was thinking. Well, for choosing to even touch that topic.
Angel, it was not a choice. Just like necessary, just like necessary food. I know a little bit about this. I have, I don't want to say struggle. I am familiar with anxiety and depression. Okay. I know a dark night of the soul. I have been so low, but I have felt God. Right. And I know his message here. And I don't say that frivolously. I don't say that out of ego. I just know it. Only twice in my life have I actually, I don't want to say I frightened myself, but I understood what someone there would do. And I remember and will never forget that peace that passes all understanding. Right. So I wanted to delve, I didn't even want to delve into that. Like I said, that character, it just kept coming up. So I put her in this book and then we started going down that road. So with necessary food, you said you were talking to a friend and so that issue sort of stemmed from there. With this book, is it loosely based on someone you know as well, or was that purely created, the character and what's going on with the character, was that purely created from That was purely created from Jilleen. Jilleen is the girl in the first book. Okay. And as she appeared in that book, some childhood issues kept coming up and she was sinking. And that's when I realized this girl has got some real issues. So I need to cap this and just for this story and put her in the next book. So then I put her in the next book, did a family tree life on her, and then came up with a whole nother story. So I was going to ask you how, because I write short stories / essays. Okay. They are kind of odd because they are nonfiction stories. They're real stories, but I shift places and things of that nature. But sometimes it almost, I don't know if it's more fiction based on true story.
I say they're nonfiction because they're real things that have happened.
Okay.
So I'm always curious. I say that to say I never create characters. I got so many in life to write about that I don't create them. So I'm wondering, what's your process for creating the characters, for establishing them in your work? Do you sit and God just places them in your mind, or do you people watch, or how do you find your characters to write about?
Again, the story comes first. And by the time I get a story in my head, I have my main character. And then I have a process where I write out who her mother is, what, the best day in her, I interview her, for lack of a better word.
That's
and
interesting.
And then I take, because you're basically building another world. And I take it from there. I tell you this, sometimes I don't see them in my eye. I'm moving with them. But if I've ever watched television, I remember there's a character in the first book. He shows up in the third book. He's a doctor. He's my second favorite character here. He's tall and handsome and rich and sarcastic. He is the man that I want to meet. So I was watching, I had the TV on in the background, and Ted Danson came on, but not the Ted Danson from Cheers. Apparently he was in a show later on where he was this doctor and he was real sarcastic. And I was like, oh my God, that's Dr. McIntyre. So that gets me excited when I can actually see them in my head.
Okay.
So yeah, there is in book 2, Ozzie Davis and Ruby Dee are the father and mother of one of my characters.
Oh, you put some famous people in the book?
No. They're in Miranda's parents look like Ozzie Davis character. That's what I'm trying to say. So back to your question, the story leads. I have my character on paper, but I get thrilled when a face pops up.
Got you.
I don't have that face for everybody. But when a face pops up, I get really excited. I feel it.
So do you watch a lot of television? And because I was going to say, I would think it would be difficult to create new, innovative characters if you're sort of bombarded by characters that have already been created by other people on screen, right?
I don't watch a lot of TV. I have it on in the background. I love investigation discovery. I watch murder from sunup to sundown if I could. Wives with knives, snap, all that. I love it. But usually I have my TV on in the background with Pandora on it or YouTube. I don't know what I was watching that day. The oldies channel, that's what it was. I was probably watching Audrey Bunker. And then that probably came on afterwards. And it was just still on and I looked up. But I rarely watch TV.
Gotcha. So you tackle eating disorders, depression, mixed with some suicide. That's heavy.
That's heavy.
That's real heavy. What are some of the other topics that you tackle in books 3, 4, and 5?
Okay, book 3 is called Always Never, and we're talking about spiritual abuse. There's
what do you mean spiritual abuse?
Okay, there is a young man who is the main character in this book. He is the son of a pastor, and he's taking over his father's church after the man dies. And he comes face to face with the duality that he saw in church people and basically the lies that his father lived that he then picked up on and is living. So he's at a crossroads to determine, okay, am I going to keep living this that I know is a lie? And his father was abusive from the pulpit. He get angry and preach people's business from the pulpit.
Oh, goodness. Have you ever heard of, who is it? I'm not sure if it's Kimberly Lawson Roby. I could be wrong in the author, but the Curtis Black series.
No, but I've heard of her and I will look that up.
I'm not sure if if anyway, that what you just said you put me in the mind of the Curtis Black series, because it's all about this pastor who everybody loves now, honey. Everybody loves him. But his personal life
is jacked up. Totally jacked up.
Totally jacked up.
But be not, God is not mocked, because
Yes.
this gentleman gets it at the end. Everything
Oh
comes full
no!
circle.
Don't say so.
Yes.
So let me ask, which one of the books have already been released? I know Necessary Food is out there and ready to be purchased because it's on Speak Up Sis bookshelf. Books 2 through 5, are any of them available?
Right. Necessary Food and More Grace have already been published. They're both on Amazon, and Necessary Food is on your bookshelf. Always Never, book 3 that we were just talking about, that is with my formatter right now. Book 4, Hidden Mercy, is talking about the pain of relationship. God wants us to be interdependent, but relationships carry pain. And there's a couple stories in here about how people have had to learn detachment and healthy ways of connecting with people. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be you're going to want to put up walls, and that's going to make your worse. That's going to make your life worse. The walls you put up to prevent pain actually bring more pain. That's basically what that story is. So I'm going to be sending that one to my editor soon. And then Secret Things, that's the book that closes out the series. We're going to circle back around to the people who are in book 1. That's about generational curses and why we behave the way we behave.
They all sound pretty juicy to me. So although I tend to write nonfiction, I actually love fiction books. I don't know what it is about. Sometimes I think fiction writers, not sometimes, you have a bit more liberty to explore so many different angles, because when it's nonfiction, it's based on something that's already taken place.
Right.
So you're really kind of confined. You have some liberties on how you choose to share the story. Right? You have liberties on which parts you want to focus on and things of that nature, but you're really confined to something that's already taken place.
Right.
Whereas with fiction, you can go anywhere you want to go. Like, you can make it turn into what you want or not. It can end or just keep going. Totally up to you how you choose to do it. And so I actually like reading fiction and trying to sort of understand the mind of the author. Like, what kind of person
is going to do this? Right. There is the other difference between fiction and nonfiction, because when I wrote for the newspaper, of course, that's nonfiction, and you give the information as if they don't know anything. You lead them. You say it again, you say it another way. That's what you do. But in fiction, you don't do that. You show. You don't tell. So it took me a while to make that switch. I love fiction. I love building my own world. And in fiction, even though your story is false, it still has to be believable.
Yes.
It has to be believable.
Yes.
Where else would you have people like Sharknado that you watch on TV, or it just has to be believable. And that does take work. Take work. And I wanted to throw something else out there, that just because you're called by God to tell your story doesn't mean that you can rest on that. You owe it to God and your readers to get the help you need, and to not just fall back on your calling and anointing. Put some skill behind it.
Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so.
Because how many self-published books have we read when they say God gave me this story, and I'm like,
it's not written in excellence?
I'm like, that's not even fair. That ain't even fair.
I
Did
agree
God
with
give
you.
you some grammar to go with that calling?
I agree
Let's
with
do
you.
it right.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think that we've actually discussed that much on any of the previous. I'm trying to think, 'cause I don't want to say something that's not true, but I don't think we've really tackled that in terms of a topic in this space. But I think it's really important, especially in a space like this that is dedicated to working specifically with independently published authors, self-published authors, because we wonder like why people don't respect or they don't want, and of course there are just some stereotypes that are out there, and some of them are unfounded. I'm sorry.
Right.
Some of them are, you just can't put an entire group of people in a bucket and say it's all garbage. You just can't do that. I mean, you can, but I don't think it's warranted. At the same time, because the tide has changed, and people don't have to go through traditional publishing houses and things like that, that opens the door for anybody. Right. And I agree. If you're going to say that God told you to write this, God told you to put this out, then you probably should do it in a spirit of excellence.
Exactly. Prove it.
And understand that it's your story to tell. However, if you're not gifted as an editor, if you're not gifted in those places, then, you know, bring people on your team. Because I'm not one of those people who believe that if you're not a grammarian that you shouldn't write a book. I don't believe that. I believe most of the books that we read, actually, those people probably would have failed English. However, they hired someone who is.
I have been an editor and I wrote for our newspaper for more than 10 years. I have an editor. I send my thing out to an editor.
Right.
Because another set of eyes is on it.
Yeah. And if you're really good at sharing your story, you have a voice and you recognize your voice. And when you're reading and hearing your voice is you. So you're not going to
you're not going to catch it.
You're not going to catch the nuances of your writing. You're not even and I've taught English for years. That was I was an English teacher. I've graded ridiculous amounts of papers. I've trained teachers. I've written, you know, all of the formalities of English and teaching and literature and all that good stuff. However, I still make errors.
You do.
I have errors in my writing, and even if I take a fine-tooth comb, my eyes glance over things because I'm hearing myself I'm reading it, but I'm hearing myself, and so even
more importantly, your brain knows what you mean, and it just assumes it's on the paper.
It is you assume
it's on the paper.
Yep. And not only that, not even just the words, but the ideas and the cohesiveness of the writing and the development of, because like you said, I know what's going on in my head. I know the flow of it, but is that being is that portrayed in the writing? When people read it, are they actually reading what you have in your head? And a lot of times
it's not.
It's not, and there needs to be some development. I'm with you on that. I'm glad. I'm so. I think I want to do an episode purely on that.
Right.
On Speak Up Sis Talk Show. I think I may pull together some authors,
because I have a service where I help new writers do that. I have I put together a 4-point bulletin that we walk through this, so you can catch your own thing.
Right. Because it's important.
It's necessary. You don't want to muddy the gospel. You don't want to mess up the message.
Right. Right. That is so good. Now my brain is moving.
Uh-oh.
My brain is moving. My brain is moving so much. So, do you plan to write more books after this particular
Absolutely.
series?
Absolutely. And not only that, they're going to be in series. You can't see it behind me, but I have a whiteboard next to my kitchen sink, and the Lord gives me titles of books, like 3 books at a time, and I sit there and write them down. So I think it's like 15 of them up there. I promise you, I'm going to write every last one of them because He's given me the titles.
Right.
So they'll come. I'm not fretting about it.
Right.
I'm going to finish this. I'm on book 5, about to wrap it up, and then I'll pull one of those, and we'll get started. It is exciting to me. I wish the day, these are my first 2 books, the day that I pulled my books out of the box that Amazon sent to me, I had 2 thoughts. First of all, I mean, I was shaking. I couldn't believe I was holding them.
Right.
And then the second thing I thought was, did I just write a book? Did I like this. I'm going to keep doing this.
Yes.
And it's been a path and a journey because I didn't think I could do it. And it took the work it took to get me out of whether I thought I could do it or whether God could do it through me.
Right.
That's a whole nother talk show. But that's really the basis of it.
But you were writing prior to becoming an author.
Yes.
What made you feel like you couldn't write a book if you were already writing informative pieces for what made you think you couldn't do the other?
If you'd asked me this last year, I would not have known, but now I know. Because even though there is a little bit of me in all of these books, everything I write has me in it. And I can't tell you how many times I have sat here and been ministered to while I'm writing. So it feels very personal.
Right.
It feels more personal than me writing about the new Kroger that opened up.
Gotcha.
Right. Because that's all facts. You cannot deny that there's a new Kroger opening up. But you can interpret this any way you will. And I think that was a little daunting and scary, but I just had to get past that.
Gotcha. I understand. So not necessarily writing the book, but the type of writing that you were doing.
The type of writing, and I think also some discipline, the changes I had to make in my life, to be able to write.
Gotcha.
To stop running the street and sit down and get in and do something, because I had to do some research on eating disorders. I had to do research on, those kind of things.
Right.
Your calling comes with change.
Yeah. Yeah. And to whom much is given, much is required. If you're going to write books, then you probably should take it seriously.
You should probably sit down at the computer.
You think?
And type?
Yeah, that's so good. I think a lot of times we say God tells us to do something, and therefore, just because because I believe that when you're doing what it is you're supposed to be doing, that you were created to do, I do believe it's sweatless for you in terms of the ease when you're in it and when you're doing it. However, that I think some people mistake that for it being an easy thing to do, and that's not true. And there are lots of things that I do that seem sweatless, but they take a lot of discipline and consistency and persistence and a lot of stick-with-itness and lots of things skills I had to hone. They weren't skills that I just and a lot of times I totally get it, because sometimes you can do things and you're like, oh, I'll do that until I tell other people that I'm gonna do it for sure, put a date on it.
Right.
Then it's different.
Exactly.
Because see, when I was helping you, I didn't really have to.
I'm just helping you.
I'm just
helping you.
I feel like doing it.
Right.
It's different when you say, oh, I'm an author and I write books. Oh, really? Oh, really now?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And people are expecting the next book.
And the other thing is that I get spiritual opposition sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
That works through my issues.
Mm-hmm.
I will get anxious. Sometimes I'll have a bout of depression and stay away from the book. Stay away. And I've learned not to condemn myself over that. There have been times I have struggled to get to the laptop. But when I got there, God met me there. I can't tell you. I have been typing and got up and had to walk down because I walk down my hallway when I'm praying, and I just felt it. But it was a fight getting there. I went and cleaned the kitchen. Anytime you want to clean out your oven before you sit down, right? I'm like, wait a minute, I got to go clean that stove,
right?
So, and I could feel the tension, not wanting to write. I don't know what that is, except for opposition. But then when I get there, he just shows up.
Yeah.
And I was typing something the other day, and I got up. I was like, I just know this was God. I just know it was.
Let me get up and bless God for this.
I know.
Trust. I totally understand. You said something a few minutes ago about showing and telling, and do you even in nonfiction, because the stories that I write about, I do the same thing. It's a showing, and I'm gonna tell you now that it's a difficult thing to do, to show a real story and not tell people how to think about what you tell them.
That is the thing that my editor, when I get my things back from my editor, that's where we're working on the most. And I think it's a problem for me for two reasons. One, because I spent 10 years in nonfiction where you had to show, but also because of my personality. I tend to be very logical. I tend to explain. My writing works so well with my spiritual gifts, which are discerning spirits, word of wisdom, word of knowledge. Those are the teaching things. Plus, I homeschool my kids. Right. Girl, if you ask me what time it is, I will tell you how to make a clock. That's how I am. That's how I am. So to pull that back and let the reader get in there. Yeah. On my book 3, I just had my beta reader told me about it. She said she read it and just cried. And then she put it away, and she would need to come back because she's also going to write a review about it. And she said it was even better the second time. Wow. And this is a woman who has been an educator for years. So I take that as success in that I've learned how to let my reader feel what I'm trying to.
I find it, I won't say disheartening, that's a strong word, but I find that lots of Christian authors, especially Black Christians, or Christians who are Black, when it comes to telling the story, I'm like, but you're telling me how to feel about this. It's like the moral of the story is, no, you don't have to, like, no.
She said no.
No, I talk with my hands. Okay. It's like, stop doing that. And I remember Dr. Christopher, he was a creative writing teacher that I had, or a professor I had in my undergrad. And it was one of the best classes I had ever taken. That was a class that I knew then that I was a writer. Wow. But I wasn't confident enough to write at that time, or to continue writing outside of the class. And I remember he used to drill all the time when we would write things like, use words like love, like I love this person, or the love, or beautiful. And he would go, what does love look like? What does love look like? Love is an abstract word, and it means something different to so
many different things.
People. Right. Saying that you love this or you love this person is lazy writing. It's lazy writing, it's lazy thinking, because if you want someone to actually feel the love, the what you consider love.
It takes
So
more writing, actually.
yeah,
Right.
so I learned to, talk about the smell of the grass and what it smells like
Exactly.
after rain, and having
Exactly.
the window, having the fan in the window blowing and it being cool on my skin and my mind, and now you're bringing nostalgia. So instead of saying that I was nostalgic, he taught
Exactly.
us
You're
how
showing
to
it.
show you nostalgia. And that, if I
That's
can,
it right there.
we don't want to take the time to learn to do that.
And that's it, because it takes time.
Yes.
It
Yes.
takes time.
Yes. I love it. I'm looking forward to reading all of your work. I'm telling you, I
Yay.
am.
Thank
For
you.
one, the topics, I think are solid. And just sitting, and for those of you who are watching, y'all already know, if you watch Speak Up Sis Talk Show on a regular basis, this just turns into like
It is.
fireside, sitting at the table conversations.
Mm-hmm.
This is the good stuff. I think I was watching. What was I watching the other day? I can't remember what I was watching. Something on YouTube, and they were talking about how people want these 5, 10, 15-minute snippet conversations, and they actually teach you, a lot of the YouTubers, they will teach you how to have these little short videos that give,
Mm-hmm.
because that's all people want to watch is like 8 minutes and they're done.
Mm-hmm.
The devil is a lie. I'm not willing to do that. I'm just not. And I truly believe at the heart of Speak Up Sis is all about conversations helping to build resiliency in people. And I believe that we can truly begin to deal with some of the mental health concerns that we have with depression, anxiety, and some of the
Mm-hmm.
other, childhood traumas and PTSD and all
Mm-hmm.
these other things. If people will get back to having full on, authentic, candid
Conversations.
conversations and allowing
Mm-hmm.
the conversations to go where they need to go.
Exactly.
So I love it. And I appreciate you for saying yes to coming into a space like this. I've had people who told me, like, Angel, like, they want me to give
Mm-hmm.
them questions. They
Mm-hmm.
need to know we're going to sound like, no, I
No,
need you to
no.
show up.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's your book and it's your life.
Right.
You should be able to talk about it without questions.
Right. Exactly. And I have appreciated it, because I don't do small talk well. We're we're gonna say hi and then we going in. So
Listen, at the beginning of this, I felt it. I felt the resistance. At the beginning, I was like, she's just gonna sit there and wait on me to ask her questions, but that's not gonna happen. She gonna
for
just
me,
do that. Yeah, when you go back and watch this, when you go back
okay,
and watch it, at the
okay,
beginning, your answers were very short. You were like, yes, I did this, bam, done with that one. Give me the next one, Angel. Bam, done with that. Next one. And then when you got to your sweet spot, you found a place where you were like, okay, here we go. And then the conversation, it was like, now we're at the dinner table.
okay. I was not aware of that.
Wait until you go back and watch it. I love it. I love how it works. I'm telling you, girl, I love this stuff. But anyway, so those of you watching, I pray that you have enjoyed the conversation tonight. It felt like talking to an old friend, new friend. I am so looking forward to reading all of your work.
Thank
Trust and
you.
believe. I got a lot in the queue, but once I get to them, I
Mm-hmm.
will
I
reach
get it.
out
I got a lot in the queue too.
and let you know exactly what my thoughts are and all that good stuff, and maybe have you back into the space to talk about some specifics of some of those
I
books
would love that.
once I get them, at least get the first two under my belt. How about
Mm-hmm.
that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So I would like for you, I like to give my guests the opportunity of sort of having the last word. Is there anything that you would like to share with someone who may be watching, who's an aspiring author or someone who's new?
Mm-hmm.
Any information, any feedback you'd like to give them?
Sure. If you're an aspiring author and you feel, and you don't just feel, you've been called to write, but you're doubting yourself, let's not do that. You are the vessel. Trust the God and trust the message, and just let God say his message through you. And I said this to you once before. We were talking once before, because one of your other guests read from the Proverbs 31 woman. There's a scripture in there that we just skip right over. We always talk about her getting up and doing this and her husband in the gate. But in Proverbs 31, verse 18, it says she perceives that her merchandise is good. This woman knows that what she's called to do is good. And I think that's where a lot of newer writers may get stuck. They think everybody's done it before and they've written 8 books and I don't do, and your merchandise is good. Trust that. And take it from me. If you just take that first step, everything you need is going to show up. I've got a formatter, I've got an editor, I've got talk shows, I've got this, I've got that. It's gonna show up. Trust that your merchandise is good. And if I can have one more word to people who are watching who may not even be writing, the theme of all of these books, which I call the Inside Out series, because change happens from the inside. We try to change a lot on the outside, thinking it's going to change our life, but change happens on the inside. Trust God and get to know God for yourself. A lot of what we're believing about God is not true and it's tripping us up.
Yeah, because we got it from some other people.
That's it.
Yeah. I love it. I can't remember who brought that up about Ecclesiastes. I love it. Trust and know that what you have is good.
Trust it. Your story is good. It's valid. That's why he gave it to you. He wouldn't give you a junk story.
That's good. That's good. And that's it, y'all. I don't have anything else to say after that, except go get the book.
Yay! You can join me on my Facebook page and chat with me if you like. Yes, I would love that.
Tell the people how to find you, all of your social media, websites, wherever they can go to connect with you.
Right now, it's just Facebook, Pamela Nichols.
Okay.
I'm going to move into the other one slowly. You know how I am with technology. We already discussed that. So
I got you, because I'm over on Instagram trying to tag you on all kind of stuff.
And you know what? My daughter set me up on Insta. She got me everywhere. And I just haven't. I'm like, what? Okay. So I'll get there.
We're going to find you right here on Facebook. You all make sure you connect with author Pamela Nichols here on Facebook. You can go to speakupsis.com/bookshelf. It's scrolling at the bottom. And for those of you who may be new into the space, I don't get any of her coins. So it's okay. Speak Up Sis Bookshelf is just a way to bring this niche into a smaller arena so that you can easily find Christian authors and their work. So if you go to speakupsis.com/bookshelf, you will find Necessary Food under the fiction category. And when you click on the book, it'll take you directly to her, wherever she wants you to purchase. That's exactly where you're going to go. All right. So just know that. I like to remind people, because folks like, we don't want to give you we want the author to get all the money, Angel. And I respect that, because I'm an author as well. So it's just a way for you to be able to find her really easily, and you can connect with her and all that good stuff and purchase the book directly from the link that's attached to her book on Speak Up Sis Bookshelf. All right. So thank you all for watching Speak Up Sis Talk Show tonight. This has been a wonderful conversation. It felt really good and really light. And I appreciate you, Pamela, for coming in and sharing your story through your written works in order to inspire other people to open up their mouths and share theirs.
And thank you for everything you're doing for us. You are doing so much. Every time I turn around, you've got something new started. I'm like, go, girl. You go ahead.
Blessings. I bless God. We're going to give him the glory and pray he continues to give me the strength.
There you go.
Handle all the pieces.
There you go.
So you all have a beautiful night. And until next time, we'll see you Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on Speak Up Sis YouTube or Speak Up Sis Bookshelf on Facebook. Y'all have a beautiful evening. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.